Since the 1970s, the film industry has been contending with the chin. Now, Gareth Miles and Simon Appleton examine each year in the career of Bruce Campbell.
Hiya, Cupcake.
Why don't you come on over to my pad? We'll have a scotch at the sofa.
Hello and welcome to A Year in the Career. We're looking at 1985 in the career of Bruce Campbell. This is the podcast that looks at the career of Bruce Campbell 1 year at a time. And this time we've got a couple of films to look at, and I am your host, Gareth. You could find me at garethmiles.com and also at garethmiles on Twitter. That's GarethMyles. And I'm joined by my charming co-host as well, Simon Appleton. How are you, Simon?
I'm good. Never been accused of being charming, but I'm certainly good.
Excellent. Well, you can charm the pants off our listeners. Where can they find you?
They can find my charming movie blog at moviemustache.com. You can also find me on Twitter at movie_mustache.
Awesome. Excellent. And of course, if you're enjoying this series of podcasts, do absolutely get in touch with us. We are a little independent podcast, so anything you can do to help us would be great. Dropping us a review on iTunes or any of that kind of caper. Absolutely go ahead and do it. Throw us an email if you like, or if you have something that you think our listening audience would benefit from knowing about, then drop us a line. We'll certainly include it if it's relevant to our audience. Well, in the last show, we had a bit of a chinwag about Bruce's rare dramatic outing Going Back, and also a little investment trailer that he appeared in, made by the Coen brothers for the film Blood Simple, which was kind of a turn-up for the books. I wasn't quite expecting something like that on his career, but it's there, and you can find it online. I've put links in the show notes as to where to find that if you wish to watch it. This week we will be looking at a couple of films. The first one is, well, after making The Evil Dead, obviously Hollywood came knocking, and Embassy Pictures decided to stump up $2.5 million for Sam Raimi to make his crazy caper that was originally called Relentless, but the title was changed a number of times, and they seem to have settled on Crimewave. This was released on the 12th of April in 1985, where it got its premiere in West Germany, of all places, which I thought was a bit odd.
It wouldn't be the first place I'd think of.
No, but then I caught myself on and thought, oh, wait, hang on a second, East Germany would have been even more weird at that time, but
yeah.
It came out, and to quote Bruce Campbell himself, it wasn't released, it escaped, because Crimewave is one hell of a roller coaster. If you thought The Evil Dead was kind of crazy in its origins through production to release, then get ready for Crimewave, because it's something else. Now, Simon, you hadn't seen Crimewave prior to recording this podcast.
No, I certainly hadn't.
But you managed to sit down and take in this epic crime flick.
Take in or be battered by.
Okay. What did you expect before you turned it on?
The little I knew about it, I expected a sort of wacky comedy type crime caper. I was expecting more slapstick.
Right.
I'm still not sure what I got. The only way I can think to describe it is when I took my missus to see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in the cinema last year, and when the curtain came down and the film was over, she turned to me and said, I enjoyed that, but what the hell did I just watch? And that second part, that's pretty much my reaction to Crimewave. I wasn't blown away by this. Hilariously, the one part of it I did like was Bruce's role.
Yes.
Even though he was a complete tool, and as they call him in the movie, a heel, he was the only likable part for me. He was funny. Even his final moments in the film were funny. The rest of it, I couldn't bring myself to like it at all.
Oh,
it was
all right. Okay.
It was awful. It really was. I could appreciate the work and effort that went into making it. Some of the chase scene with on the highway or wherever the hell they filmed that was well done, and the crash was well done. But for the most part, the clearly dubbed voices and some of the over the top performances. I did like the newspaper that blew past the clever little reference to the Evil Dead about the military moving into the woods to deal with the cabin.
Yeah.
But no, for the most part, I did not enjoy this film.
Wow. Okay. Scathing. Fair enough. It was a film that eluded me for years. It was one that appeared in blurbs in the likes of the film guides that you see in back in the day before you had the internet. You had to look people's names up to find their films in Leonard Maltin reviews and Halliwell's film guides and Video Retriever, and Crimewave was always listed, but I could never find it, and it wasn't until I would say in the early 90s it got a VHS release in the UK, and I think it was around the time that, I don't know if Spider-Man was coming out, or perhaps the Coen brothers had a film coming out, but it was really marketed as Sam Raimi and the Coen brothers did this. Get ready for it. And it came out, I grabbed it, and I watched it, and I honestly lapped it up. I must have just been at an age where the kind of crazy caper that happens here appealed to the teenager that needed exciting action, or perhaps it was something that, because I've been looking for it for so long, I was determined to enjoy it whenever it arrived, because it was a big screen release for a Bruce Campbell movie. And now, the film does feel very much like one of the early shorts that they've done, and it has that kind of approach to it of wacky, cartoony stooges.
Yes, it does.
Comedy, but it throws in all these little odd amateur-esque shots that echo throughout the film that I feel distracted from being a big, robust and well-made film. There's one thing that sticks out now every time I think of Crimewave, because I watched it recently and I didn't enjoy it anywhere near as much as I had done years ago. But there was one particularly clumsy shot of, I can't remember the actor's name. I'll see if I can quickly find it here. Edward Pressman, whenever he's going into his apartment, someone mentions something to him about the ongoing plot that's happening in this film, and it has a close-up of his eyes jiggling from side to side as he thinks quickly of what to do, what to say, and how to react with this. And it just felt like something that they had thrown into one of their short films. It didn't need to be there. It was obviously a cartoony, comical moment that they wanted to carry on with, but it stuck out like a sore thumb as a shot that could have been avoided, and then they cut back to what is essentially a master shot in the corridor, and they play out the master shot. So they've gone from an extreme close-up to a master shot in a small space of time, and keep with the master shot. That just distracted me greatly from the film, and I felt it was really poorly put together in that particular moment. But that was just one example of how there are a number of things in this film that annoys me. However, whenever you look at what Sam has done, is that every shot is absolutely packed with detail.
Yes, it is.
Techniques and color to give the audience value for money, or something to look at, something to enjoy. It's odd, someone like, say, Orson Welles may have done that, where every shot is set up with an epic sense of style. Sam Raimi's gone for that as well, and I felt that he was going, right, this is Hollywood has called me. I'm going to take every great idea I have, and I'm going to fill the screen, the mise en scène, if you like, with everything. Let's get this down, and this is going to become a huge success, and I'm going to be showered with riches and wonders on the back of this. But it must be so frustrating for him, because initially they were given creative control over the film, but because the film went over budget and over schedule,
quite drastically, if I remember rightly.
Yeah. The creative control was removed from them, and Sam has gone and disowned this film as one of the ones, which must be quite frustrating. A lot of the ideas you can see coming back in other films. And there was a shot list I found online that where they have broken this down into this happened in Crimewave, but it also happened in this film as well. He used that there. They used this in Spider-Man, and that's kind of nice, where he's still salvaging his good ideas that he had, or favorite ideas maybe that he had for this film, and he's producing them elsewhere because he's not going back and seeing this again. The cast is really good fun. It has a few weak links along the way, and I guess the fella Reed Birney, who plays the role of Vic Ajax, the leading character in the film, which was originally written for Bruce.
Yes.
Sam he's all right. He's serviceable, but had it been Bruce, it would have been much better.
I think what worked in Reed's favour was because of the acting he produced for the role, because he's meant to be this innocent, naive bloke who just gets walked on by everyone else, who always sees the bright side of things, even though the world basically just wants to kick him in the arse all day long. It kind of worked. For example, one bit I did like was when the governor shows up and he's in the chair, and that look of relief and it's almost like a light has shone on his face because the governor shows up and he's like, "Oh, good, I'm not too late." And you're meant to think, "Oh, he's going to release him," and he's like, "I haven't missed it, great," and then just sits down, and the look of, "Oh shit," on his face. It kind of worked from that angle, but it does start to grate on you after. But as I said, it was Bruce's performance as the heel was definitely the relief. And as I said, I did enjoy the bit where the governor showed up. What I couldn't believe was Antonio Fargas, Huggy Bear of Starsky and Hutch. When I saw that, I recognised that bloke. Mm-hmm. And I had to actually pause the film and go onto IMDb and look at, why do I recognise this person? And it's like, I can't believe it's Antonio Fargas.
Yeah, it's a bit odd. The actors that appear in the film are quite well noted. I wanted to talk a wee bit about Paul L. Smith as well, who I'm a big fan of. I've seen a number of his films, and I watched a documentary with him a couple of years ago called was it The Largest Red Herring or something like that it was called. But he had a fascinating career in Israel and then in Italy as well, where he played essentially a knockoff of Bud Spencer in a bunch of movies as well. But he's best known for his incredible role in Midnight Express, and he's in June as well, and Red Sonja. He pops up Bluto in Popeye as well. He does have a pretty big career, yet he's here as well. And I remember watching. I had to go and find that documentary again to get the quote. He mentioned that Variety had suggested that his role was supporting the whole film, and I felt that was a little bit unfair because Brian James is particularly good as well. He's very Weasley. You know him from Blade Runner.
Yep, amongst other things.
Yeah, he's sadly departed, but he's a very iconic actor from
what caught
video films.
Me with him obviously was because seen him in I believe he's in 48 Hours as well. Yes, he's in 48 Hours and The Fifth Element. But he's got this one of his signature things is he's got this very deep voice. Yeah. And then to see him in that and very squeaky voice, it works for the character. It really does work. It was quite clever how they did it when he first reaches for the cigarettes in the glove box, and the other guy's going to slam his hand in the door. But the way he wails, and then the van pulls up outside the building, and it actually sounds like a siren for like a police car or some sort of emergency vehicle. I thought it was, but it's just so you're expecting that typically deep gravelly voice, and what you get is this squeaky, high pitched and then you find out later he's got this ability to mimic other people. It was very, very creepy.
They filled the characters with odd quirks.
Definitely.
And almost played people against type, which makes me think that, had Bruce played the lead role in this, following Evil Dead, going back, and then the lead role in an overstretched comedy caper like this, that would have been, the perfect CV for any actor.
Yeah.
But he ended up getting shafted and put down to a lesser role, which he acted the shit out of, and stole the film from everyone else who was there. Cherie J. Wilson, who we know from, I think she Walker's Texas Ranger, and April Stevens from Dallas, which is where I first fell in love with her. She plays Nancy, the heroine, who the damsel in distress. She's lovely in it. She's not given that much to do. She does have a wee dance number, which I remember thinking that was quite funny.
Yeah, she kind of just has an arc of realizing that sometimes you've got to you got to see what's right in front of you, and maybe the bad boy isn't the one to go for.
Despite all these main sort of characters that we're talking about, it's Louise Lasser who is actually considered the biggest star of the film, and I find that the oddest thing, because, to be honest, her role doesn't really have much to do with the whole story.
No.
And it's just, she's available, let's put her in there. And you read behind the scenes about how she fired her makeup artist.
And was a giant pain in the ass on a cocaine-fueled madness.
Yeah, so that makes you think, wow, I don't know her outside of this film particularly well. Having a look at her film career, she was in Mystery Men, Bananas, and Happiness, 3 films that I've seen. I don't remember her in those at all. Looking down her filmography, I don't recognise too many things at all. Surrender and Frankenhooker.
She was in an episode of CSI.
Oh, there you go.
A show I didn't watch.
Right, okay. But, there's all these principal roles that just kind of get thrown together. It's a bit of a crazy mishmash of actors, and I don't think, whilst Vic Ajax is the protagonist that the audience is going to identify with, he's actually slammed way down there, and he doesn't really. Yeah,
it's his movie, but it almost focuses on the brothers, or the two exterminators, shall we say, more than anything.
But I guess from that point of view, maybe the star of the show is actually Sam Raimi, because he just fills the film so full of kinetic energy. It becomes almost tiresome halfway through.
Yes.
And there are the odd slow moments, but there's not that many.
No, it cranks it into high gear very quickly.
And stays in it. You really get a very short amount of air here and there. The film is notable because obviously the Coen brothers served as editors on it as well. Joseph LaDuca, who did the music on Hercules and Xena and The Evil Dead, he wasn't included by the producers as well. He was removed from this project as well, which is another reason for Sam disowning it, because he wanted LaDuca to do the score for the film. And to be entirely honest, even though I watched it about a week ago, I can't think of the music in this film at all.
No. Whereas
Joe LaDuca, who did Army of Darkness, and a lot of not huge soundtracks, but I know his name because of The Evil Dead, and I've listened to the music from those films, and there is a particular style that he does, and they're notable. Whereas I couldn't even tell you who did the music on this, and I couldn't hum any tunes from it in the slightest. No, it's totally forgettable.
In fact, the only sounds that do spring to mind from the film are that very squeaky voice and lightning striking.
Yes, electricity and people being electrocuted and that sort of thing. Yeah. I like the world that they're creating. I love the whole windy Chicago thing. It's almost like they've just dumped everything in to keep this thing absolutely brim full of ideas and stuff to play with. It's almost like a sandbox of a film that, if this was a TV show, they could have spent episodes dealing with each and every character. Instead, you only get a few minutes with each character, and it's total. And it's a missed opportunity, perhaps, for a lot of those things. The reviews were not good whenever it came out, although some did recognise the creativity that Raimi had put on screen, and the film bombed big time. I think it was released in, was it Arkansas and Alaska or something like that, theatrically, and then it was moved very quickly onto cable, where it played late night showings on cable quite a bit. So it lost an awful lot of money. But on the back of that, it's worth noting that the guys had to go back and try and redevelop their career, because obviously Evil Dead had been a success. They'd gone to Hollywood and made this. They had a thoroughly nasty time doing it. I know that there's reports of how even Bruce Campbell came to arguments with some of the producers over their direction they were taking this, and they had to work out what they were going to do next, because they were totally put off the whole studio machine by their experience here. And it was because of their experience here that they decided, we're going to do Evil Dead 2. Let's go back, take creative control, and make the movie that we want to see. And if it hadn't have been for this being such a crazy time for them, we probably wouldn't have got Evil Dead 2. If this had worked out perfectly, they may have all gone on to other things, and that's up for debate.
Yeah.
We mightn't have got possibly the greatest horror comedy ever made in Evil Dead 2. Having a quick look at my notes on Crimewave, I do have one that I've tacked on the end here, which is the film opens with Crimewave being set in Hudsucker State, which is an obvious nod to the Hudsucker Proxy, which, whenever you think about it, is probably the closest you'll get to the cartoony approach of Crimewave in another film. Because I don't know if you've seen Hudsucker Proxy.
I haven't. I've heard of it, but
okay, it's a bit of a slapstick comedy, not unlike this, but good. With Paul Newman as well, which really adds volumes to it. Look forward to that one, because I do particularly like Hudsucker Proxy, and we'll be talking about that whenever we get to 1992. Was it 1994? 93. So yeah, that's Crimewave. It's hard to say that it's. I wouldn't go as far as you and say that it's hard. It is hard to watch. It's a bit of an assault on your senses. But I do quite like it, primarily because Bruce Campbell is bloody cool in it.
He is. I will give you that. He was very cool in it.
That's a hard thing for an actor to do whenever they're relegated to such a small, unlikable role, to be the one thing that you take away from it. Paul Smith is particularly good as well. Brian James is good. And those three, I think, make this film, along with Raimi's fun style, make this not entirely unwatchable. Is that a compliment?
Yeah, I think that's as close as we're going to get to complimenting it.
All right, okay. Anything else you want to add before we move on to the next big thing?
No, I think I've slated it enough.
So I'm a heel. So what of it? I'm not such a bad guy. Or am I? Huh?
So, also in 1985, we had the remake of Stryker's War. Back in their short film making days, the guys made a film called Stryker's War. Well, particularly Josh Becker made it. And they used this as essentially a finance tool to make it a bigger film. The story of, well, it was actually called Stryker's War again, is a relatively simple one. Josh Becker and his friend Sheldon Lettich were brainstorming ideas, and Sheldon went away and produced a huge 180-page script called Bloodbath, and this formed the basis for the film Thou Shalt Not Kill Except, because Josh spent his time whilst working as a security guard and fleshing out the idea with Bruce Campbell on a journey back from the Evil Dead cabin with all the gear into a bit of a doable action horror film. Well, I wouldn't even go as far to say a horror film. I suppose it has horror elements. I know from our intro episode you were quite interested in seeing the remake of Stryker's War, because we did quite enjoy Stryker's War. It was kind of a fun distraction.
I hadn't managed to get to see Stryker's War for the opening episode, but I definitely made a point of watching the short before watching the film, so as I could compare the two. And I actually preferred the short.
Yeah, there's a couple of reasons for that, but the feature film does have its positives as well. So what are your feelings? Well, how come the short was better in your eyes?
I think mainly it's Bruce. Again, it's Bruce because
Okay.
he was better in the lead role. He was more likable. He was as Stryker. I don't know. I just didn't connect with the actor who took over. In fact, whereas because he's not actually
Credited?
no, he wasn't credited apparently. Although in the copy I saw, he was credited. But
Yeah, IMDb shows it as Jack Stryker, uncredited.
mm,
Brian Schulz.
yeah, I just didn't like him as much as I liked Bruce, and I thought, if anything, that the short felt more like its own original story, whereas the film came across more like a alternate version of or bad episode of the A Team. They even seem to have their own token discount B.A. Baracus in there, who
Yeah.
seemed to be channeling Mr. T in his performance. The film did do a better job of establishing the romance side of things, and obviously certain elements of production value were better.
Hmm.
I don't think it has a positive message on the use of firearms and alcohol at the same time, but the same can be said of both versions for that. But yeah, overall, I just generally found myself enjoying the short better than I enjoyed the movie.
All right. Well, that's I honestly prefer the feature film, although I will agree with you, it is very much lacking Mr. Campbell in the lead role.
Mm.
But I don't feel that this is a movie for Bruce at all. This is a movie for Sam Raimi
Yes.
doing his thing, and he has so much fun here.
Yeah, he's
And
literally been let off the chain.
yeah. Both he and his brother Ted play. Well, Sam plays pretty much a Charlie Manson character, leading a cult,
Hmm.
as they go and be nasty to the locals, and a bunch of returning Vietnam veterans decide to take up arms against them. And I think it is a nice idea. It was done a number of times during the 80s, and I'd like to think that this maybe was, because they did Strikers War, they came up with the idea before some of the other ones. Obviously, a Rambo influence
Yeah.
has been made there, but where they've taken Rambo and the A-Team and mixed them together. I can think of one other film I hadn't seen Thou Shalt Not Kill except in a long time. I've only seen it twice, once for this show, and then once when I first got it on video years ago, or maybe it was DVD, I can't remember which, but whenever I first got it. But there was another film called The Annihilators, which had Gareth Graham in it, who's an actor I think of very much along the same lines as Bruce Campbell. They have a similar career path. And I honestly got these two films very mixed up, and I was thinking of the team from The Annihilators versus Sam Raimi, because Sam Raimi is totally notable here as this cult leader, and a lot of what they do is reenacting stuff that they've done in the Strikers War short, the iconic moments, and there are a few of them that I'm so glad they left in there, like there's all the action that happens in the house, and they film from the outside, and they follow it round the outside of the house. I really love that shot. It's so simple, and all you hear is the stuff that's going on
Yeah.
in the house. And then the two bloody hands on the lady's mammary glands is a particularly iconic moment as well. I think those are essentially the best bits of the film. The rest of it is a wee bit drab, but I think the action delivers a lot better than in Strikers War. I feel that this version of Jack Stryker puts up a better fight than the Bruce's version, because I don't think Bruce actually even throws a punch in the original Strikers War.
But yeah, you might be right there.
Yeah, it's a wee bit lackluster. The Bruce is credited as having a role as I think the video news
Yeah.
caster. I didn't recognize him in the slightest. I'm thinking that perhaps I missed it, or maybe they replaced it.
I think what they've done is they've used a different actor's face, and he just did the voice because it's a non excuse me, non-Screen Actors Guild production.
Yeah.
He'd literally just joined the Screen Actors Guild, so he couldn't appear in it. So what I reckon they did was they got another actor to do the actual appearance, and he voiced it. So at least he had some connection to it, and he's credited through story as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I said, I think I probably would have enjoyed it more if he'd have got to play the role.
Yeah.
I think it might just be me and I've seen him play the role. I want to see him play the role again, sort of thing. It's always weird when another actor takes up the same role.
And the particular casting here was not good at all, because even Sam Raimi would have been better in the role, or perhaps Ted Raimi. But why would they want to play this fairly bland role whenever they can play the cult leader, and Ted Raimi's credited as Chain Man?
Yeah.
Which are so much more fun. They don't get as much screen time, but they look much more fun to play. The one thing that really distracts in this film is their take on Vietnam, their battle that they reconstructed on what looks like a golf course, with some bales of hay doubling as huts. That's obviously got budget restrictions, and it works out very lousy. I think even just cutting that out, or perhaps having it fuzzy black and white in a thought bubble above the characters who are having the flashbacks, would have worked better. It's too hokey for the film to support. However, a perfect example of how this film succeeds is Joseph LoDuca, who we were obviously just talking about on Crimewave. His score is fantastic on this film, and that really propels this film up an extra couple of stars on my books. And I really think this film excels at that because of the score. It just glues it all together and makes it a much more palatable package. It does have a tremendous cult following.
I can believe that.
But there's large groups of people in the States who get together and watch this every year because they love it so much, which isn't unthinkable, because every film certainly has its fans.
Yeah.
Josh didn't do too badly. He found his footing here, and it certainly helped him propel his career, and it got him into the Hollywood circles that he needed to be into. Though I Shall Not Kill isn't particularly great. It's an oddity on... Well, no, it's not an oddity on Bruce's career. He has many films that he's not actually fully involved in, but he does have some kind of strange little role, because he was pursuing a career. So he has to do films like this in order to keep credits and have things to put on his CV.
And to pay the bills.
And to pay the bills, that's the thing. I wouldn't recommend people seek out Thou Shalt Not Kill or Crimewave.
No.
There's better things to come as examples of Bruce's career. Unless you have anything else you would like to add about Thou Shalt Not Kill, except...
No, I think we've covered it quite well enough.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, next week we'll be looking at 1987. Whenever we look at one of my favourite films ever made, was released, and we get an insultingly small role, which is not the first time that happens in Bruce's career, in a popular TV show as well. So tune in next week for A Year in the Career 1987. If you want to have your say on what we're talking about, get in touch with Gareth at ayearinthecareer.com, or Simon, you're on the emails as well.
Yep, you can get me at simon at ayearinthecareer.com.
Or alternately, you can find me on Twitter at Gareth Miles, and Simon
at movie_mustache.
Groovy. And other than that, take care.
See you next time.
Keep talking, baby. Maybe you'll tell me something I don't already know.